All right, it looks like we're live today. Um, we're going to talk about which version of Luke Skywalker was more powerful, the Mandalorian version or the Legends version. Now, I have two articles today. One that's a bonus, and I'm going to get that one out the way first. And then the article about Luke after that. And we're gonna dive into that article about Luke, and that one takes a much more broader look at the differences between Luke in Legends and Luke in The Mandalorian. I'm going to try and get a little more specific, just a little bit. So let's go ahead and get into the first article, the bonus article. I hope you all find this a little bit enjoyable because I thought it was a fun article myself. But it talks about how old R2D2 is in each trilogy. Um, this article is written by KJ Kim on ScreenRant.com. And a lot of my articles are probably going to come from Screen Rant because it seems as though Screen Rant does a lot of articles. They post a lot of articles on Star Wars. But this article talks about R2 and the possibility of R2 being around like 60 something years old by the time of Rise of Skywalker saga. Um, let's see. Where did it say that? I had it up here. Oh, 66 to 67 years old by the time of Rise of Skywalker. So they're basically saying that if R2 was recently built at the time of Phantom Menace when we first meet R2D2, then R2 would basically be around 66, 67 years old. That's assuming that R2 was built just before the Phantom Menace. And then they go into talking about the R2 series and the origins of the R2 series, I guess. And I found that pretty interesting. I tend to not really go too deep into all the details of all the devices and computer technology and stuff like that that is in Star Wars. And I mean, I guess it would be interesting to take that dive. But I found this to be a fun article to read. If you guys want to check it out, I suggest you do. But then we come to this article here talking about how powerful Luke Skywalker is in The Mandalorian compared to Star Wars movies. Uh, now, um, I guess it also talks about, because as I read through this whole thing, it also talks about Luke Skywalker in Legends and compares that. And the Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian at the time, that point in time in the timeline, is probably, I guess, maybe about 10 years older than he was in Return of the Jedi. So 10 years after Return of the Jedi, I think in Legends he was just about to be getting married to Mara Jade. So Luke at that time specifically I believe was just about as powerful as what we saw there in The Mandalorian. Now, what this article says, if you were to take it a read, it says that, and this is written by James Hunt at Screen Rant. This article talks about in Legends, Luke Skywalker being like super OP, and Luke Skywalker was like he became basically the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy. The things that he did in Legends was like, wow, okay, this is insane. Now, they're saying that the comparison between Legends Luke and Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian are not necessarily the same. And I disagree with that, because I think in the timeline they coincide. And then they also say that what we see in The Last Jedi is not Luke at his most powerful. And they explain how he cut himself off from the Force and things like that, which is, they talk about how that is a huge feat in itself. And I tend to agree with that. But I'm starting to feel like when it comes to Luke in Legends, people want, like, the Luke that people wanted in, well, the Luke that people wanted in The Last Jedi is the Luke that people wanted in Legends, but it's hard to get that Luke. It's hard to get that Luke, in, especially with Mark Hamill being an older man. Like, you're not gonna get the same Luke. And not only that, we have to think about them trying to create a story with actors that, you know, Carrie Fisher, she passed away. It's just, Han, he didn't want to keep the story going. Like, we weren't going to get what we got in Legends. It just wasn't going to happen. Well, I'm talking about Han, but Harrison Ford, he didn't want to keep going as Han. And I just knew that I wasn't necessarily, I knew that I wasn't going to get exactly what I wanted out of Star Wars, the Star Wars sequels, when it came to it seeming to be like Legends in any kind of way. I did hope to get something like that, but that was not the case at all. However, I do believe what we got from Luke in The Last Jedi is like a very powerful Luke from my personal perspective, because Luke was able to use his Jedi power without, like, it was in defense. And what Yoda said is only use your power for defense. That was probably the best example of using his power in defense. The greatest, like, to project yourself to another planet. I don't know if, like, are people not understanding like that's a very difficult thing to do, I imagine. I mean, it's not real, but I would imagine that's a very difficult feat. And that was what saved the resistance, the rebellion. And I think that when people look at what happened in The Last Jedi, they feel like they were robbed of the Luke that they got from Legends. And I get it. I understand, but when I was in the theaters, I was like, okay, I don't mind. I'm cool because this is the Luke that I feel I can relate to more instead of the Luke that, is doing all this stuff that I can't relate. It was cool, but like, no, I'm not. Luke was OP in Legends. He was insane in Legends. I loved it. It was awesome, but um, I was actually very pleased with how Ryan Johnson took Luke Skywalker's story. Now, a lot of people may disagree with me, and that's okay. I see nothing wrong with that. But, that's my opinion. But Luke Skywalker and The Mandalorian did kind of make up for that, I would say. It kind of makes up for what everybody was looking for from Luke Skywalker, because you got to understand when, like, one of the things that my son always does, it's funny to me. He says, I'm a Jedi, or he says, I'm a Sith. And then he says, the reason why I'm a Sith is because I've been training. And then he starts swinging his lightsaber around. And I'm like, well, what does that have to do with being a Jedi or a Sith? What does that have to do with that? And he's like, because I've been training. And I'm like, that sounds, like very Padawanish, very acolyte like. But the funny thing is that everyone goes through that process. Everyone goes through that. That's why every era of Star Wars, the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy, you have the characters going through this period where they're, naive, and they're given their hero's journey, or they're presented with their hero's journey. They refuse their hero's journey. The second movie comes around, they tend to refuse their hero's journey still. And then the third movie comes around and they fulfill their journey. In the case of the prequels, it was a little different. I think that was probably more so considered a tragedy, how the tragedy came to be. And Anakin going through the beginning of his hero's journey, I guess, is still refusing his hero's journey all the way up until the point where Return of the Jedi comes up, and then he saves his son. That's interesting. I never really thought of it like that. But yeah, so then you had Rey's Rey. It was her hero's journey, but also Ben's hero's journey too. Like, so, like the best analogy would probably be Luke and Vader. I don't know, but like, this is the kind of stuff that I like to do. I just kind of like to explore the aspects of what these things mean and the parallels and all of that stuff. But anyway, at the end of the day, I think that Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian was pretty awesome. I shed tears seeing it. It was something that as soon as I saw that little X-Wing fly by, I was like, that's him. That's him. I know it. That's him. He came out and I saw that lightsaber. I was like, yep, that's him. And like, it was like, at the time, you got the music going, and that you could feel the tenseness of that situation, and it felt like it was just overwhelming at that point. And then you have Grogu going with Luke Skywalker, and then at that point you just got him. The tears are pouring down your face. And R2, when he rolls up on Grogu and you see them interact with each other, and it didn't dawn on me until I saw an episode of Emergency Awesome where he was talking about how Grogu and R2 might actually know each other. And because of course R2 was around at that time when Grogu was at the Jedi Temple, so they could know each other, and nobody else around probably knew what that conversation was about. So who knows? I don't know, but I found that very interesting. There's little like tiny details that tie into the other parts of other stories, and I like that. And that was something that I liked about Legends. Legends always had these little, Easter eggs all over the place in the expanded universe stories. So Legends Luke, super awesome. Lots of great stories that I will always love, because Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, both series I loved a lot. Actually, I still listen to those all the time, the audio versions of those all the time. I'm probably going to have to introduce my son to those too. He hasn't checked them out yet. But yeah, we all know that Legends Luke was OP, but during that time, I think around when he was getting married to Mara Jade, Luke at that time and Luke at the time of the Mandalorian were probably about the same strength and power, I would say. And we're probably not going to ever get to see Luke Fate of the Jedi version. We're just not, that's not happening. We're not getting that. Not even Luke Legacy of the Force, really. We're probably not getting that either. I don't see that coming. Luke, Yuuzhan Vong War, Jedi Order, New Jedi Order series. I don't think that's happening. He was like, Luke was ridiculous in Legends. It was insane. So what we got from The Last Jedi, that's about as good as it's gonna get. if that's not good enough for you, we may get some stuff in between here. But I would argue that was Luke's most powerful moment. And some people would say, as this article says that The Mandalorian so far is Luke's most powerful moment. But I don't think so. I mean, it's a powerful moment because he is saving a crew of people, but it wasn't necessarily that he was saving a crew of people. He had a mission. He was trying to accomplish a goal at that point in time. In The Last Jedi, he was being selfish, and he thought that he wasn't being selfish. He thought that by cutting himself off from the Force and putting himself on some kind of island. Now, granted, this is all J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson's storytelling, and it just was all over the place. But he put himself on an island because he failed, and Rian Johnson wrote about him dealing with that failure, learning to come to terms with his failure. And it took Yoda coming and, like, him coming back to using the Force, and Yoda coming and telling him, like, dude, like, we all fail. Learning from our failure is what's important, and we gotta show them how to take failure and make it their greatest value, their greatest gift. And I think that at that moment when Rey felt Luke go, she understood what he did. She understood what it meant to be a Jedi. It's not about lifting rocks. It's not about swinging around a lightsaber. The third lesson that we didn't get to see in the movie that was cut out. It's not about swinging around a lightsaber. It's not about how powerful you are. It's about, what are you doing with your power? If you have it, then what are you doing with it? Like, if you're using it to fulfill your own agenda, then it's corrupting you, and it's not gonna end very well for you. But if you're using it in a selfless manner, if you're using it in the sense of love, then you'll definitely make life better for a lot of people in the galaxy. That's my interpretation of it anyway. But I hope you guys thought my breakdown of this article and talking about this a little rambly, but hope you guys enjoyed it. I probably didn't have too many viewers or anything. That's okay. I'm gonna keep going. Gonna keep talking about Star Wars because honestly, I'm having fun with this now. I think I'm having fun with it again because my son, he made it fun for me again. So I'll see y'all on the next one tomorrow. Let's do it, baby.